Okay guys, what I want to do with this video is something that I do every time that we get to this stage right here with the earthquakes, this stage in a pattern. And what I try to do is try to show you guys how this pattern works. See, if you get the pattern, you can predict what kind of earthquakes are coming as well. I mean, you don't have to be a prophet, you don't have to be a rocket scientist, you don't have to have an education. You just got to be able to recognize patterns, and then you can know what's kind of coming. Okay, now over and over again, I keep trying to tell you guys that the way these quakes work is, if you go back about 4 years ago, it's running about like this on a kind of an up. Just follow the arrow here on an uphill swing. Then it levels off, then it kind of dips, and then it swings back up above that level plane, and then it gets back to a level plane, and then it kind of dips, and then it rises back up against higher than the second level plane, and then eventually levels out, and then it starts to dip, and then it goes. It's kind of like when you look at the stock market and you see something go like this, but it's on a continually uphill pattern. That's what's been going on for the last 4 years generally, but in the last 2 years we've seen massive spikes. So instead of doing this, it's doing more like this. Okay, but the pattern is the same. The other day I put out a video about a 6.0, and over here in the United States, just off the coast of Oregon, and that 5 point, I can't remember, 5 point something, right off in Northern California. Okay, and you also saw a 6.0 over here and a 6.0 over here. But what you're noticing at this point, as this goes around, I'll just let it turn gradually here as it goes around. I'll shrink it down so we can zoom in on it so you can see the numbers. But as it goes around, what you're going to notice is what I keep on mentioning over and over and over again, and that is there's a lot of earthquakes, but there's no earthquakes above a 5.5 anywhere on the map. It's mid to low 5.0s and lower, and that's all that's on the map. Now, if this pattern if it continues for about the next 24 to 48 hours or longer, then you know that there's a big quake coming within the next few days to the next couple weeks. A big quake being anything above a 6.4, 6.5. Okay, that could be a 6.4, it could be a 6.9, a 7.8, 9.7, whatever. Okay, but it's the same pattern every time. When the globe looks like this, we're looking at the last 24 hours, right up here in the corner. When the globe looks like this, for 3 to 4 days straight, there's always a big one somewhere on the planet, and usually multiple big ones. And again, a big one is a 6.0, or actually a 6.4 or bigger is what I consider to be a big one, because of the amount of damage it can do if it's in a populated area. That doesn't mean that it's scientifically right that a 6.4 is a quote big one. I don't know. It doesn't matter. To me, a big one is a 6.4 and bigger. So when I say a big one, that's what I'm talking about. But notice the pattern. Before these 6.0s start to pop up, or 7.0s or 8.0s or whatever's going to happen, we have to watch the pattern and see where the activity is at, and then we can kind of get a generalized area of where the 6s or 7s or 8s or 9s or whatever are going to be. But every time this pattern happens, immediately following it, within days to a couple weeks, I've never seen it go past 2 weeks ever for the last 2 years. I've not seen it ever make it past 2 weeks before there's a 6.4 or bigger, and usually there's multiple. 6.4, a 6.9, a 6.3, 6.7, multiple ones. But get the pattern down, guys, because it's over and over. Even though all these earthquakes are spreading across and out to every continent and to every ocean and to every sea, it doesn't matter. The pattern still remains the same. And in the blank areas, for example, Africa, they're getting earthquakes too. Again, they're lower than a 4.6 magnitude, but they're getting earthquakes every single day. They're just ranging in the 1 to 3.0 range, and they don't show up on USGS. There's other websites or places that you can go to actually see that data, for Africa, or for anywhere, Iran, any other place that where on USGS you're not seeing the earthquakes. But the pattern to these earthquakes, guys, remember, they all started out basically since Japan onward. I mean, as far as the bulk of earthquakes that we're getting nowadays. But the pattern has always remained the same. They start out in ones, they move to twos, then to threes, then they may fall back into the 2 and 1 range only, but eventually they'll bump up to the 4s, then they bump to the 5s, and then they bump in. Once you're in the 5 range, you can get a 6, 7, 8, 9.0, maybe even a 10.0. Okay, yes, there will be at least a 10.0, probably much bigger than that, when Mashiach in the Hebrew, or Messiah in the English tongue, steps his foot back onto the earth. And when his foot touches the earth, the actual physical ground called earth, when it touches it, there's going to be a massive quake that's going to split the planet. I mean, split the land. So, yeah, I would say that's going to be greater than a 10.0. Nevertheless, there may be 10.0s before he ever returns. I don't know. I don't know. But the pattern is still the same. It moves from 1s to 2s to 3s to 4s to 5s. And once you're in the 5s, you can get spikes in the 6s, spikes in the 7s, spikes in the 8s, spikes in the 9s. It's the same pattern as it spreads throughout the planet. You watch, guys, sooner or later, you're going to see Africa begin to fill in like the rest of the continents and the rest of the planet. Now, if we go back 48 hours, 48 hours right here, and we look at the screen as it comes around, we'll look and we'll see what's been going on for the last 48 hours. There's a 5.3, that's a low 5. There's another 5.3, that's a low 5. There's a huge spike over California, of course, right here. And then you got all the 6.0 start to show up. The 6.0. Okay, so 6.0 here, 6.0 over here, where my arrow is, 6.0 down here. Okay, so within 48 hours we've had 6s, but in the last 24 hours we've only had low 5s or lower. So if this pattern continues on for the next 24 to 48 to 72 hours, everything staying at about a 5.3 or lower, then within days to a couple weeks, you're going to see a 6.4 or bigger somewhere on this planet. It's a pattern, guys, and it's over and over and over again. It's just a pattern. Okay? Not the growing awareness is a prophet and he says that blah blah blah. No, guys, this is patterns. Anybody can do this. I'm nobody. Okay? It's just a pattern. So watch it over the next few days, the next 24 to 48 to 72 hours. If they never move up above a 5.3, 5.4, there's going to be a 6.2, 6.4, 6.5, 7, 8.0, something of that nature within the next few days to 2 weeks. Every time. It's just a pattern. Once you see the pattern, know the pattern, you know when you need to be alert to the possibility of a big quake in your area, because it could strike anywhere on the planet. Okay? Just because it struck off the west coast of Oregon in the United States doesn't mean that next time it's not going to strike right smack in India. Who knows? So when you see this pattern, when you're in these low numbers like we have been for the last 24 hours here, where, look, we're going to move this up to a 5. So all we see is 5.0 and bigger. This is all we've had for the last 24 hours, guys. 5.3, 5.1, 5.0, 5.1, 5.3. Nothing above a 5.3 for 24 hours. So if it makes another 24 to 48 to 72 hours with nothing getting up above these 5.3s, believe it, within days to a couple weeks at most, there's going to be a 6.4 or bigger, and maybe multiple 6.4 or biggers somewhere on this planet. It could be your area. It could be anywhere. But you can be alert once you understand the pattern. There's no reason to be alert when you're in the downspin. But when so much time has passed, about 72 hours, and there's not been any kind of big quake, then you need to become alert, because one could be striking in your area. It's going to strike somewhere on the planet. It always does, every single time. when this pattern happens. So here I am, I'm showing you this pattern probably for the 5th or 6th time now, and if in the next 72 hours window here this doesn't go up, you can believe that within days to a couple weeks it's going to happen. There's going to be a 6.4 or bigger, and probably multiples. It's the same pattern. Okay? It's just patterns, guys. And that's how come I'm right every single time. Not because I'm a prophet, not because I'm somebody special. I just watch the patterns. And you can do the same thing. You don't need me to make the videos once you understand the patterns. They start out at 1s and 2s, and then 3s, and then 4.0s, and then 5.0s, and once you're in the 5.0 range in a given area, they can spike as high as 9 point whatever, 10 point whatever. You get spikes, but only once you're in the 5.0 range. Until then, it works its way up. Little minor quakes, maybe even a negative magnitude earthquake, and then all of a sudden you're in the 1.0 range earthquakes, and then suddenly 2.0 start to show up here and there, and then they become more and more frequent, and then all of a sudden, every once and again, you'll see a 3.0 pop up or bigger, and then, you know, it's just here and there, and, you know, maybe once every couple weeks or what, and then all of a sudden they're just pretty frequent, like on a daily basis or whatever, and then all of a sudden 4.0 pluses start to show up here and there, and then they eventually work their way up into the 5s. And that's when you start to get the spikes, such as the United States had that 5.6 or whatever it was. Let's just go look at what it was. Yeah, 5.6, and then immediately following it, it spiked to a 6. Once you're in the 5s, the 6s can show up, the 7s can show up, the 8s can show up, the 9s can show up. I've yet to see it. I'm not saying it's not possible, but I have yet to see it spike from a 4.0 up to a 6 or 7 or 8. I've yet to see that. That's why I say once you're in the 5.0 range, you can get the spikes. Way up, 6, 7, 8, 9. Once you're in the 5s. But I've never seen it happen in the 4s, 3s, 2s, or 1s. So, anyways, guys, I hope you get there's two kinds of patterns here. There's the continually growing and spreading throughout the planet and growing in magnitude over a long period of time. They go from 1s to 2s to 3s to 4s to 5s and then spikes. Okay? And then there's the other pattern where whenever you have a 72-hour window and there's absolutely nothing above a 5.3 magnitude earthquake, there's always a 6.4 or bigger somewhere on this planet, every time within 2 weeks, every single time. Here, for the last year and a half, that's exactly the pattern we've been in. You go back 2 years, and that pattern's really not there. But there ain't nearly as many earthquakes either when you go back to the 2-year mark. So, and especially not throughout the entire planet, it's specific places only, going past the 2-year mark. But anyways, guys, I hope you get the pattern. I hope you understand the pattern. And as you watch over the next 24 to 48 hours here, if there's no 5.3s or bigger, I mean 5.4 or bigger, anything above a 5.3, if there's none of it for the next 24 to 48 hours, which would be a 72-hour window, because we've already been through 24 hours, another 24 hours would be 48 hours, another 48 hours would be 72 hours. So once that 72-hour window's here and nothing's been above a 5.3, maybe a 5.4, guarantee you 2 weeks later, within 2 weeks, excuse me, there will be a 6.4 plus every time. That could be a 6.4, 7.8, 9.7, whatever. But it's every single time. So hopefully you get the pattern this time after the 6th, 7th, 8th video. I don't know how many now I've done showing this pattern. And every time, within 2 weeks, every time, there's always a 6.4, 6.5, whatever, maybe a 7.3 or 4, you know, something. Because it's just a pattern. It's just the way he's doing it. As he's spreading it throughout into diverse places, or throughout the earth, as Scripture says. So, hopefully you get the pattern, guys. If you don't, well, you know, just keep going over it, because it's the same thing over and over and over again. Now, the pattern may change up a little bit. Like I said, this pattern's only been around for about the last year and a half. You go back 2 years, you couldn't have used that pattern. So, you know, there may be a new pattern that emerges where it's less than 72 hours or whatever. I don't know. But as of right now, this is the way it's held true for the last year and a half. After it started spreading throughout the earth, this pattern showed up, and it's been there ever since. And it may go away at some point, or change up, or become worse. I don't know. But at this point, that's what this pattern has held true every single time for a year and a half now. That's why all those videos, you know, when I put the video warning, look guys, there's a big one coming, there's a reason I do that. It's because of the pattern. As I say in the video, it's the pattern. And then of course within 2 weeks, boom, there it is. So just get the pattern. That way when you're in this phase of the pattern here in the last 24 hours, let me bring this back up. When you're in this phase where you're not getting really anything above a 5.3, 5.4 range, there's nothing to worry about until 72 hours have passed. But once you're in a 72-hour window and it looks like this all the way through, where there's nothing on the screen above a 5.3, 5.4, and you've moved this all the way up to 72 hours, which would be right here, and there's nothing above a 5.3, 5.4, that point you need to be praying and saying, Father, you know, whatever you got to do to see you through it, because be prepared. That's what He told you to do. It's not even about fear, guys. 6.0 magnitude earthquake, if you're at the epicenter, yeah, you may lose your life. Maybe a building might fall on you. But really and truly, chances are you're going to live. So it's not even about fear-mongering. It's just knowing this pattern so you can be alert at the times you need to be alert, and just, you know, that way you know you're ready in case one strikes in your area. It's no big deal, though. Okay? It's not about fear, guys. You should, if you're in Messiah, that's the English tongue, if you're in Mashiach, for you that are Israelites, you that are the West, okay, the Israelites, the house of Judah are Hebrew, guys. The house of Israel are Judah. Oh, I got that all messed up, guys. Listen to me. The house of Israel are the Hebrews. The house of Judah are the Jews. Okay, both the house of Judah and the house of Israel together make up Israel. Okay, but there's the Hebrews and there's the Jews. Okay, the Hebrews, you ought to know your own language. But if you don't know who you are, just as Scripture said you wouldn't, and you don't know who your God is, you probably don't know any Hebrew. Which is fine, it's okay. You know, He's the one that divided the languages. He's the one that confounded the tongue. The languages at the Tower of Babel. Father is. He did it. So all the languages are legit. He did it. Okay? But know your roots, know who you are, know your language. It's Father's language anyway. The Hebrew language is Father's language. That's what the entire Old Testament is written in, is both ancient pictographic Hebrew and modern day Hebrew. As time passed by, the last part of the Old Testament is basically Aramaic in nature. It's basically the Aramaic language, but it's considered to be Hebrew, block letters, and so forth and so on. Okay, I love you guys. I got to get off here with this video. I just wanted to show you the pattern once again, and the pattern will look the same. 24 hours, nothing above a 5.3. Looking at the last, let's see where the, wait, there's the 6.0 right there. So right there. So basically what? I don't know, 30 hours ago. Okay, but for the last, since then, there's been nothing above a 5.3. So we're in this down tick, this downward pattern, and if it holds for a total of 72 hours, then within days, after the 72 hours up, within days to a couple weeks, there's always a big one, 6.4 or bigger, somewhere on the planet. And usually here lately, for about the last 7 months or so, there's usually multiple big ones. I mean, originally when the pattern first started to appear about a year and a half ago, you'd only have one big one, just one, somewhere on the planet, just one. Nowadays you get 2, 3, 4. I've seen it as many as 6 or 7. I mean, just have an entire week worth of them. So, and other people can verify that, or you can go back and watch the older videos of mine where it's right there on video, where there's entire weeks where I'm putting out, whoa, boom, 6.5, boom, 7.2, boom. You know, it's just one after another, after another, after another. That's here recently, guys. In the last 7 months, we started to get multiple big ones instead of just one big one. Anyways, guys, got to get off here. I love you guys. Get in the Word, guys. In the Word. And get the Word in you. Okay? Get Messiah, the Spirit that was in Messiah, that He sent when He ascended to the Father, and the Father gave it to Him. He sent it down. Get that Spirit in you, because the Spirit can speak. Okay? And He will guide you into all truth. And then stay in the Word. Okay, well, the Spirit will cause you to stay in the Word anyway, but you know what I'm saying. Stay in it. Don't fall out of it, because if you've got any kind of religion in you, you're screwed. You got to know the truth, and the truth is only in the Word, not what the preacher, cardinal, pastor, best friend, son, relative, father, I don't care, whoever told you. It doesn't matter what they told you that the Scripture says. What does it say? The only way to find out is for your eyeballs to get in there and to actually read it for yourself, so that no one can come along and deceive you. It tells you the chronological events of everything that has to take place, culminating at the very end of the end with the return of the real Messiah, the one who was amongst us, the Word made flesh, the Son of God, the Son of the Creator, our brother, and our Lord and our Master, and our teacher, and all sorts of good stuff. But He is our salvation, our redemption. He's everything. So get in the Word, stay in the Word, and get the Word in you, guys. I love you. I'll talk to you guys soon.